Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to see how far you have all made it. You're just 2 quizzes away from having your very own free copy of the On the Living Edge book. While this series has talked a lot about the many mundane and sometimes annoying requirements of lakefront living, today's video will be about one of the reasons we've all bought lakefront houses in the first place: access to the shore and water. I'm sure a lot of you are exactly like me and love how easy it is to get to the water from your home when you live right on the shoreline. I'm also sure that a lot of you have different ways to access your shoreline. This video will teach you about being eco-friendly and environmentally aware when constructing your access points. In fact, I am actually looking to change the beaten-up path I use into something more eco-friendly. We're going to have a friend from Alberta Environment and Parks to help me decide on what sort of shoreline access is best. Let's go meet her in her office now.
Hi everyone, I'm Environment and Parks Patty. I work for the Government of Alberta in maintaining our natural environment and ensuring property owners are complying with all of the established policies and precedents. I deal with lakefront property owners quite a bit in my day-to-day, and I always tell them that with such beautiful shoreline properties comes an immense amount of responsibility. Property that includes riparian areas, buffer zones, and other environmentally significant natural features are of utmost importance to maintain Alberta's clean water supply and aquatic life. So I heard we're going to be helping Lacey out with accessing her shoreline today. There are 2 main topics we will cover with Lacey: trails and docks. This is because these are the 2 things you see when you go from your home to the water. Let's go see Lacey now.
Hey Patty, welcome to my lakefront home. So recently I've realized that my mucky trail I take to get to the shore has become not just a path for me, but also for drainage that comes from watering my garden. I have some money left over from my budget for the septic change, thanks to Parkland County's Green Acreages program. They gave me 60% of my establishment cost for upgrading my field to a pump-up tank septic system that was more appropriate for my lakefront property. It really shows that contacting the municipality and local stewardship groups pays off for the wallet.
Of course! When there isn't an established path to get to the shoreline, owners and their guests sometimes stomp through critical riparian habitat to reach the water. Another problem that comes from not having a designated access point is that guests just pick the first gap in the buffer zone that they see. This leads to more and more punctures all over your buffer, when all you need is one. Thus, a better management practice would be giving them a constructed path that floats above your vegetation. This is a great way to make your access point look nicer and also protect your buffer zone and riparian areas. There are also so many simple things you can make that will allow for designated shoreline access. Something like trail signage that shows people the indicated path is a great way to keep people on track. While these bare earth paths allow for damage to be constricted to just one area, there are methods that prevent much of an impact altogether. The best one of these is a floating path or staircase leading to your shoreline that uses small supports that lift it above the vegetation below. This allows plant and wildlife to live and move freely under the path.
That's some really great advice. I think building a narrow wooden path that floats above my riparian buffer would be the optimal way to protect my home. Another important note to make is that while constructing a path might seem expensive, it will save you money in the long run, as you will have to spend less on revitalizing your buffer and landscaping your property to heal from the damage caused by wandering visitors.
Exactly. The last thing to keep in mind when creating access points to the lake is the permitting that may be required to do so. Parkland County does not require a development permit for path creation. However, clearing of certain vegetation may require permitting. If you need to clear trees above the high water mark on land that is zoned country residential, we recommend speaking with the development department before doing so. Clearing a small amount of trees for a building pocket or small trail may not necessarily require a permit. However, clearing large amounts of trees will. So it is important to ask first, as reclamation activities can be very expensive. The development department can also help you out with designated your lot lines if you are unsure or have never looked into this. So remember to ask them before starting your shoreline project. An Alberta land surveyor can also help with this.
So now that we've learned a lot about access to the shoreline, I wonder if there is any way I can make my dock less damaging to the shoreline. Right now, I have a floating dock. Is that my best option?
Of course there is. When it comes to lakefront living, there are always sustainable options. Generally, when it comes to floating docks, they tend to block out the crucial sunshine needed by plants and animals in the littoral zone. This is the area in the water closest to the shoreline where sunlight should penetrate all the way to the sediment, allowing for aquatic plants to grow. Having something like an elevated pipe dock is a great compromise between secure access to your boat and minimal environmental impact. The thin pipes don't harm the banks, and they allow plenty of sun to shine through and contact the plants in your aquatic buffer. Other dock types have differing advantages and disadvantages. Specialty docks can be far more expensive, but also can be used in shallow water and will have lesser impact on the floor of the water body. Specialty docks include floating, cantilever, suspension, and lift styles. Remember, folks, many docks have some form of regulatory requirements with the provincial government, so you should always speak with our local public lands, water management, or fish and wildlife office before putting in any project of this nature. To be on the safe side, always use the designated boat launch points, which can be identified by this sign.
That's perfect. I think a pipe dock will definitely be the way to go for my home. I remember trying to install a permanent dock last year and was surprised with the regulations and legalities that go behind doing that. Alberta Environment and Parks is highly critical when it comes to placing a permanent fixture on Crown land. In fact, our next video will be discussing the topic of shoreline ownership. I think it's a question shoreline property owners really should know the answer to. Patty, I have one final question for you. What about people who don't own property along the lake but are looking to access the water?
That's a great question, Lacey. Folks who are coming to the lake for recreation can access the water using designated boat launches that are set up on public land for Lake Wabamun. These launches can be found in the village of Wabamun or in the Wabamun Lake Provincial Park. Well, I think I've shared enough for one day. I hope everyone learned a lot about low-impact shoreline access and docks. Thank you for having me over, Lacey, and I hope to see you all soon.